The invisible streak of light passed through Earth's atmosphere undetected by most tracking systems. Only the advanced array at the Colorado SETI station registered the anomaly. And even then, Lieutenant Jack Miller almost dismissed it as equipment malfunction. "Wait a second," Jack muttered, adjusting his glasses. The pattern repeated, 3 distinct pulses followed by a longer emission. No natural phenomenon created such regular sequences. He called his supervisor immediately. Within hours, Dr. Lisa Ward arrived at the facility. Short, with curly brown hair and piercing eyes, she had spent 15 years searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. Now her hands trembled as she examined the recording. "It's structured," she whispered. "This isn't random noise. Run it through all decryption protocols." The signal contained mathematical sequences, prime numbers, the value of pi, and finally, simple pictographic images. The photos spread across news networks worldwide. Blurry but unmistakable images of bipedal beings with elongated heads. The Zorthans had made contact. World leaders assembled an international response team led by Dr. Ward. She worked day and night with linguists and mathematicians to develop basic communication principles. They established a simple language using mathematical concepts as foundation. "We'll broadcast our response from the International Space Station," Lisa explained to the UN Security Council. "The signal strength will be stronger, and it demonstrates our technological capabilities without appearing threatening." The response contained human greetings, basic scientific knowledge, and an invitation to communicate further. Everyone held their breath, waiting. 3 days later, a massive ship emerged near Jupiter. Nearly 2 miles long, its dark surface absorbed rather than reflected light. Smaller craft detached from the vessel, approaching Earth orbit. "They're responding to our invitation," Lisa said, watching the screens at Mission Control. "This is exactly what we hoped for." The international team prepared for direct communication. They transmitted images of humans with raised open hands, the universal gesture of peace. The Zorthan ships halted their approach. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then came their response, a burst of energy not aimed at Earth, but at an unmanned weather satellite. The explosion lit up orbital tracking systems worldwide. "What just happened?" demanded the UN Secretary General. Lisa reviewed the transmissions frantically. "There must be a misunderstanding. They interpreted something we sent as threatening." Military satellites tracked the Zorthan vessels as they retreated to the edge of the solar system. They maintained position there, neither advancing nor departing. Panic spread across Earth. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders declared everything from apocalypse to salvation. Military forces worldwide went to highest alert status. "We need to understand what went wrong," Lisa insisted during the emergency summit in Geneva. "Our gesture of open hands, it might mean something completely different in their culture." Intelligence agencies intercepted fragments of Zorthan communications. Preliminary analysis suggested confusion. The aliens appeared genuinely surprised by humanity's initial peaceful approach. "They expected us to attack," explained Dr. Frank Nelson, xenobiologist. "Their society might be structured around conflict. Perhaps they only understand dominance and submission as relationship models." The debate about Earth's response divided nations. The Russian and Chinese delegations pushed for immediate military preparations. European representatives advocated withdrawal and isolation. The American team proposed something unprecedented. "We need to try again," said Ambassador Susan Foster, rising from her seat at the conference table. "But this time, we explain something they apparently don't understand." "Which is?" asked the French representative. Foster looked around the room. "Negotiation. The concept that different species can meet, discuss their differences, and find mutual benefit without conquest." Silence fell across the chamber. "You want to negotiate with aliens who just destroyed one of our satellites?" asked the Brazilian ambassador incredulously. "Yes," Foster replied, "because their response suggests they've never encountered the concept before. And that gives us something unique to offer. As footage of military deployments flooded global media, Foster assembled her team. Earth prepared for what might be its most important diplomatic mission, teaching aliens that talking before fighting was possible. The UN Security Council chamber buzzed with tension. Military officers in decorated uniforms stood alongside diplomats in suits, all facing the large screen showing the Zorthan ship's position near Neptune. "We should strike now, while we have the element of surprise," General Alan Brooks said, pointing at the tactical display. His voice carried the confidence of a man used to being obeyed. "Every moment we wait gives them time to analyze our weaknesses." Several delegates nodded in agreement. The Russian representative leaned forward. "Our nuclear arsenal could be adapted for space deployment within 72 hours. Ambassador Susan Foster watched the room falling into the familiar pattern of fear-driven escalation. She stood, her gray suit contrasting with the military uniforms surrounding her. "With respect, General, surprising an advanced spacefaring civilization seems unlikely," she said calmly. "Their technology clearly surpasses ours. If we attack, we might trigger the very war we fear." Brooks scoffed. "And your alternative?" "Write them a strongly worded letter." Foster placed a tablet on the table. "I propose something unprecedented, a diplomatic mission to negotiate directly with the Zorthans." Laughter rippled through the room. "Negotiate?" The Chinese representative raised an eyebrow. "They destroy our satellite after our peaceful greeting. They don't appear interested in talking." Foster played her strongest card. "Actually, we've decrypted more of their communications. Dr. Martinez, please share your findings." Dr. Olivia Martinez stepped forward, her voice steady despite the intimidating audience. "The Zorthans aren't preparing for war. They're confused. Phrases we've translated include unexpected response and protocol violation. They expected us to either attack or submit immediately." She displayed a series of translated messages on the main screen. "Their history appears to involve only conquest-based interactions with other species. The concept of mutual negotiation between equals seems foreign to them." Foster continued, "This gives Earth an unexpected advantage. We can offer something they've never encountered, peaceful negotiation between different species as equals." President Eleanor Wilson, who had been silent until now, spoke. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador?" "A mission to the edge of our solar system. A small team of diplomats, linguists, and minimal military presence. We establish direct communication and propose talks without preconditions." General Brooks slammed his hand on the table. "Madness. You'd hand them hostages." "Not hostages," Foster countered. "Representatives of a new approach. Our scans show their weapons could have destroyed Earth already if that was their intention. They're waiting for something." The debate raged for hours. Military leaders argued for strength, intelligence agencies for caution, politicians for whatever would please their constituents. Finally, President Wilson raised her hand for silence. "We've spent our history preparing for this moment by imagining aliens as either saviors or conquerors," she said. "Perhaps we've never considered they might simply be different. Ambassador Foster, you have 48 hours to assemble your team. The ship Endeavour will be prepared for your mission." As Foster left the chamber, General Brooks stopped her. "When this fails, Ambassador, there won't be time for a second chance." Foster met his gaze. "And if it succeeds, General, we'll have changed the course of human history without firing a shot." In her office, Foster immediately called Dr. Martinez. "It's approved. I need you as chief linguist." "Me?" Martinez sounded surprised. "I've never done field diplomacy." "No one has, with aliens," Foster replied. "But you understand their language better than anyone. And we need someone who can think beyond Earth's diplomatic traditions." As news of the mission leaked, Earth's population divided. Protesters carried signs reading "No negotiation with invaders," while support grew among younger generations fascinated by the possibility of peaceful contact. Meanwhile, Martinez made a breakthrough studying Zorthan cultural references. They respect directness, she told Foster. What we consider diplomatic subtlety, they might see as deception. We need to completely rethink our approach. Within 2 days, the Endeavour prepared for launch, carrying humanity's hopes for a different kind of first contact, one built on words instead of weapons. Dr. Olivia Martinez barely slept during the 3 days before launch. Her small office at the Space Center filled with screens displaying Zorthan language patterns. Coffee cups gathered in small clusters around her desk as she refined the translation algorithms. The problem isn't just vocabulary, she explained to Foster during their morning briefing. It's conceptual. Their language lacks words for compromise or mutual benefit. Every interaction is structured around dominance or submission. Foster nodded, reviewing the personnel files. That matches what Sam found. Sam Johnson, the mission anthropologist, joined them carrying a tablet. Tall with a short beard, he specialized in comparing isolated human cultures before joining the alien contact team. Based on their communications, Zorthans organize everything hierarchically, Sam explained, showing diagrams. They understand peace only as what happens after one side wins. The idea of equals finding balance might be revolutionary to them. Outside the research facility, preparations for the mission faced challenges. Captain Ethan Murphy inspected the Endeavour with obvious skepticism. His military background showed in his posture and clipped speech. This ship was designed for scientific exploration, not diplomatic missions, he told the engineering team. We're removing weapon systems to add conference rooms. What if they attack? Chief Engineer Patel responded calmly. The President specified minimal military presence. We keep point defense systems only. This mission is about communication, not combat. Murphy frowned. I've led 3 combat deployments. Never a peace talk with aliens. There's a first time for everything, Captain, Patel replied. News of the mission leaked despite security measures. Television networks displayed split screens, half showing protests outside military bases, half showing crowds of supporters gathering at universities and space centers. Defend Earth Now read signs in Washington. TALK before war countered banners in Europe. Foster avoided watching the coverage, focusing instead on preparation. Her team expanded to include specialists in various fields, each chosen for adaptability and open-mindedness. In the ship's newly converted conference room, Martinez conducted daily language drills with the diplomatic team. Their verbs indicate status, she explained. Using the wrong form could accidentally declare war or submit to conquest. The crew practiced with holographic Zorthan figures based on the limited images they had. The aliens appeared taller than humans, with elongated heads and 4 arms. Their skin resembled polished stone more than flesh. Security Officer Nicole West raised her hand during one session. What if this is all wrong? What if they're nothing like we imagine? Then we adapt, Martins answered. The key is showing that humans can change our approach, something their culture might not expect. 7 days before launch, Sam Johnson made a critical discovery analyzing Zorthan transmissions. They respect direct confrontation, he told Foster excitedly. What we might consider aggressive, they see as honest. Being too cautious might make us appear deceitful. Foster considered this, so we should be blunt. Respectfully direct, Sam clarified. State our position clearly, acknowledge differences openly, and suggest cooperation without hiding our interests. This insight transformed their approach. Martinez adjusted language protocols. Foster rewrote opening statements. Even Captain Murphy seemed intrigued by this cultural revelation. The night before launch, Foster addressed the crew in the Endeavour's main hall. 60 faces looked back at her. Scientists, diplomats, linguists, security personnel, and support staff. Tomorrow we leave not just as representatives of Earth, she said, but as representatives of a new idea, that different species can talk before they fight. The Zorthans don't understand this concept. Teaching it to them might be our greatest contribution to galactic society. As the crew dispersed to their quarters, Martinez approached Foster privately. I found something else in their language, she said quietly. A rarely used verb form for interactions between different military units of equal rank. It's not exactly negotiation, but it's the closest concept they have. We might build from there. Foster smiled for the first time in days. That's our starting point then. The Endeavor launched at dawn, carrying humanity's hopes for a different kind of first contact. The Endeavor hummed quietly as it pushed through the dark emptiness of space. Captain Ethan Murphy stood on the bridge, watching the blue marble of Earth shrink behind them. His fingers tapped against the command console, military instincts still alert despite the diplomatic nature of their mission. "Course steady to Neptune's orbit," said the navigation officer. "Estimated arrival at Zorthan position in 6 days." Murphy nodded curtly. "Maintain minimal energy signature. Just because we're here to talk doesn't mean we announce ourselves loudly." The ship represented Earth's most advanced technology, sleek, efficient, and now repurposed for history's most unusual diplomatic mission. Where weapons arrays once dominated, conference spaces and communication equipment had been installed. In the main laboratory, Dr. Olivia Martinez hunched over her workstation, surrounded by screens displaying language patterns. She hadn't slept properly in days. Readjusting translation matrix based on new frequency patterns, she murmured to herself, fingers dancing across the interface. Her team of linguists worked alongside her, each focused on different aspects of Zorthan communication. Ambassador Foster entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. She placed one beside Martinez. "Any breakthroughs?" Martinez rubbed her tired eyes. "Maybe. Their language changes depending on relative status. I've isolated 6 different communication modes they might use with us, ranging from conquering overlord to potential ally." "Which one should we aim for?" Foster asked. "Allies, ideally. But first, we need to establish we're neither threatening them nor submitting to them. It's a narrow path." Throughout the ship, specialists prepared for first contact. In the Cultural Center, Sam Johnson compiled visual presentations showing human cooperation across history. In the Medical Bay, Dr. Aaron Phillips studied the limited biological data on Zorthans, preparing for potential in-person meetings. The mood aboard ship oscillated between excitement and tension. Some crew members whispered about Earth's chances if negotiations failed. Others shared dreams of peaceful exchange. All knew they were making history with every passing hour. On the 4th day, Captain Murphy called Foster to the bridge. "We're receiving a direct transmission," he said, pointing to the main screen. "They know we're coming." Foster straightened her jacket. "Put it through to the communication center. It's time to begin." The diplomatic team gathered quickly around the conference table as the screens activated. After a moment of static, an image appeared, a Zorthan. Its stone-like skin gleamed under lights, 4 arms positioned formally. The elongated head housed 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. When it spoke, the words came through Martinez's translation algorithm with a slight delay. "Earth vessel approaching Zorthan position. Explain intent." Foster took a deep breath and stepped forward where the cameras could capture her. "I am Ambassador Susan Foster of Earth. We approach peacefully to establish communication and understanding between our species." The Zorthan commander, who identified himself as Krelks, tilted his head. "Understanding without conquest. Explain concept." Martinez whispered to Foster. "They genuinely don't understand our approach." "This confirms our theory." Foster continued carefully. "Humans believe different species can share knowledge and resources without one controlling the other. We call this negotiation." A long silence followed. The Zorthan commander conferred with others off-screen. Finally, he returned. "This concept is unknown in our experience with other life forms. All previous encounters resolved through dominance or submission." His 3 eyes narrowed. "Your species proposes a third path." "Yes," Foster replied simply. "We wish to demonstrate this approach." Another pause. The translation team worked frantically to interpret subtle changes in the Zorthan's posture and tone. "Your vessel may approach our outer perimeter," Krelks finally stated. "We will observe this." Negotiation concept. When the transmission ended, the room erupted in quiet celebration. Martinez grinned at Foster. They're curious. That's more than we hoped for. Captain Murphy was less enthusiastic. They're allowing us closer to their weapons range. Stay alert. As the Endeavour adjusted course for final approach, Foster gathered her team. We opened the door slightly. Now comes the hard part, showing them something their civilization has never encountered before. The idea that different beings can talk as equals. The shuttle detached from the Endeavour with a gentle hiss. Inside, Ambassador Susan Foster smoothed her formal blue suit, trying to hide her nervousness. Beside her, Dr. Olivia Martinez reviewed final language notes, while anthropologist Sam Johnson checked cultural reference materials. Security Officer Ryan Garcia sat quietly, his only weapon a small stun device approved by both sides. Remember, Foster said quietly, we make history today, no matter what happens. The Zorthan vessel loomed ahead, massive and angular, with a surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. As their shuttle approached the designated docking area, Ryan whistled softly. It's at least 20 times bigger than our largest battleship, he observed. Martinez nodded. Their civilization is estimated to be at least 300 years ahead of ours technologically. The shuttle slid into the docking bay with automated precision. Despite all their preparation, nothing had truly prepared the human team for the reality of boarding an alien spacecraft. The airlock cycled, lights shifted from red to green, and the door opened. 4 Zorthans waited beyond. Foster had seen images and holograms, but the actual presence of the aliens struck her deeply. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their stone-like skin catching the light as they moved. 4 arms emerged from torsos that narrowed at a flexible waist. Their triangular eyes focused intently on the humans. We follow protocol as planned, Foster whispered. She stepped forward and performed the formal greeting Martinez had designed, arms positioned to show neither aggression nor submission. I am Ambassador Foster of Earth. We come to establish understanding. The lead Zorthan, Commander Krelks, moved 1 step forward. His upper arms remained in formal position, while his lower arms adjusted what appeared to be a translation device. Your presence on our vessel is unprecedented, Krelks stated, his voice resonating strangely. No species has ever approached Zorthans except in warfare or surrender. Foster maintained eye contact. Humans believe different paths exist. The Zorthans led them through corridors that seemed to shift subtly as they walked. The delegation arrived at a chamber with a circular table, clearly modified to accommodate the human visitors. As they settled into their positions, Martinez activated her translation device and nodded reassuringly to Foster. The real work began. Explain this negotiation concept, Krelks demanded. Another Zorthan, introduced as Science Director Vral, recorded everything with a device integrated into his upper left arm. Foster started simply. Throughout our history, humans fought many wars. Eventually, we discovered that finding mutual benefit often proved more valuable than conquest. Sam Johnson displayed images showing human cooperation across cultures and history. The Zorthans watched with their 3 eyes blinking in patterns that Martinez recognized as indicating intense interest. Your species does not establish dominance hierarchies, asked Vral, leaning forward. We have hierarchies, Foster clarified. But we've learned they work better when all participants benefit and consent. This concept visibly confused the Zorthans. They conferred among themselves in rapid speech that the translators struggled to follow. If neither side submits, Krelks eventually asked, how is order maintained? Ryan Garcia, who had remained silent, surprised everyone by answering. Through balance, like fighting stances, if both opponents remain balanced, neither falls. This martial analogy seemed to connect. The Zorthans' postures shifted subtly. Show practical application, Krelks demanded. Foster had prepared for this. Earth needs certain minerals. Your scans likely show we have biological diversity and cultural artifacts. We propose exchange based on mutual valuation, without determining superior position first. Vral sounded genuinely puzzled. The superior position, Foster replied carefully, belongs to the arrangement itself, the agreement that benefits both sides. The concept seemed revolutionary to the Zorthans. The delegation spent hours explaining fundamental concepts of negotiation that humans took for granted. By the time they prepared to return to the Endeavor, something had changed in the Zorthans' demeanor. "We require time to process this approach," Krelk stated. "You will return tomorrow to continue demonstration of this negotiation." As they boarded the shuttle, Martinez could barely contain her excitement. "Did you see their posture change when you explained mutual benefit? That's the equivalent of a breakthrough moment in their thinking." Foster nodded, allowing herself a small smile. "We've taken the first step. We've shown them there's another way besides conquest or submission." "Is this arrangement acceptable for receiving visitors?" Captain Murphy asked, gesturing around the Endeavor's modified conference room. Colorful Earth artwork hung on walls that yesterday had been bare metal. Tables displayed carefully selected cultural artifacts, simple musical instruments, art pieces, and food samples. Ambassador Foster nodded approvingly. "Perfect. Remember, everyone, this is the first time Zorthans have willingly entered a human space. Every detail matters." The ship's alert system announced the approaching Zorthan shuttle. 4 representatives had accepted the invitation to continue discussions aboard the human vessel, a significant breakthrough according to Martinez. "They're taking a risk by coming here," she reminded the welcome team. For their culture, entering another species' territory traditionally happens only after conquest. The airlock cycled open. Commander Krelks entered first, followed by Science Director Vral, and 2 others introduced as Security Chief Draz and Cultural Observer Mex. Their stone-like bodies moved with surprising grace despite the ship's lighter gravity. "Welcome aboard the Endeavor," Foster greeted them with the formal gesture they had established. Krelks surveyed the room carefully. "Your habitat is smaller than expected. We build to different scales," Foster explained. "Please, explore freely." The Zorthans moved through the space with evident curiosity. Vral examined everything with scanning devices built into his arms. Mex focused particularly on the cultural displays. Security Chief Draz approached Ryan Garcia directly. "Your weapon systems are minimal," he observed. "Your species relies on different protections." Ryan chose his words carefully. "We believe understanding reduces the need for weapons." Draz made a sound that Martinez later identified as skepticism, a peculiar approach to survival. The human team had prepared demonstrations of Earth culture. Sam Johnson displayed artistic traditions spanning continents and centuries. Musicians performed simple compositions showing different cultural styles. Food samples, carefully analyzed to ensure they were safe for Zorthan biology, provided sensory experiences. During these exchanges, Martinez noticed subtle patterns in the Zorthans' language. "Their speech forms are changing," she whispered to Foster during a break. "They're using transitional syntax, forms they'd use with equals rather than conquered species." The most significant breakthrough came unexpectedly. While examining Earth's writing systems, Vral made a connection. "These symbols evolve across time similar to our ancient communications. Perhaps our development patterns share similarities despite biological differences." This observation opened new conversation paths. For the first time, the Zorthans spoke of their own historical development rather than just current capabilities. Later, Ryan Garcia demonstrated basic combat training techniques to an interested Draz. The security chiefs found unexpected common ground. "Your fighting forms emphasize balance and position," Draz noted, mimicking a defensive stance with his 4 arms. "Ours focus on overwhelming force." "Different approaches, both effective in different situations," Ryan replied. This exchange prompted Draz to share Zorthan security protocols, information that would prove valuable later. Not everything went smoothly. During a ceremonial tea service, Foster accidentally performed a gesture that in Zorthan culture indicated territorial challenge. The room immediately tensed as Krelk's posture shifted to alert status. Sam Johnson recognized the problem instantly. Different cultural meaning. He explained quickly, demonstrating the actual meaning of the human gesture, welcome, and sharing. After tense moments of explanation, the misunderstanding cleared. Rather than damaging relations, this incident proved valuable. The Zorthans witnessed how humans handle potential conflict through explanation rather than escalation. Your species adapts communication quickly, Mex observed, the first direct comment from the cultural observer. This is unusual in our experience. As the visit concluded, Foster formally presented a data package containing basic Earth knowledge, art, music, scientific principles openly shared. We offer this freely, not as submission, but as foundation for understanding, she explained. Krelks received it with a new gesture, one that Martins recognized as indicating neither dominance nor submission, but acknowledgement between equals. Tomorrow, Krelks announced, representatives of Earth will learn about Zorthan civilization. Exchange should flow in both directions for this negotiation concept to function properly. After the Zorthans departed, Foster gathered her team. We've achieved more in 2 days than I dared hope. They're not just tolerating our approach. They're beginning to understand it. News of the cultural exchange reached Earth, where initial fear had begun transforming into cautious optimism. For the first time, humanity glimpsed a future where difference didn't necessarily mean conflict. The alarm blared through the Endeavour precisely when most of the crew had finally fallen into exhausted sleep. Captain Murphy reached the bridge in under 2 minutes, still securing his uniform. "Report," he demanded, scanning the tactical displays. Massive energy surge detected beyond Neptune's orbit, the sensor officer explained. The Zorthan fleet is changing formation and powering weapon systems. Ambassador Foster arrived moments later, followed by Martinez. "What's happening?" Before Murphy could answer, the communication system activated. Commander Krelks appeared on screen, his stone-like features set in what they now recognized as an alert posture. "Earth representatives," Krelks stated without preamble. "Our long-range sensors detect approaching Krell vessels. We are preparing defensive withdrawal. Advisory: you should return to your planet immediately." "Krell?" Foster asked, looking at Martinez. Martinez quickly consulted her database. "They've mentioned this species before, described as highly aggressive. Apparently conquered several Zorthan colonial outposts." Foster addressed Krelks directly. "Can you share your sensor data with us?" After a brief hesitation, the Zorthan commander transmitted the information. Captain Murphy studied it with growing concern. 7 vessels, each approximately the size of the Zorthan flagship. Weapons signatures unlike anything in our database. Estimated arrival in this sector: 36 hours. "Why are you withdrawing rather than defending?" Foster asked Krelks. "Krell technology currently exceeds our capabilities," Krelks replied matter-of-factly. "Standard protocol is strategic retreat to protect fleet assets." Foster exchanged glances with Murphy. A dangerous idea was forming in her mind. "What if we didn't retreat separately?" she suggested. "What if we faced this threat together?" The bridge fell silent. Even Martinez looked shocked. "Are you proposing military alliance?" Krelks asked, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly. "Your vessel has minimal combat capabilities." "But we have different tactical approaches," Captain Murphy interjected, warming to Foster's idea. "Combined strategies might provide advantages neither of us possesses alone." For several long moments, Krelks seemed to process this suggestion. Finally, he responded, "This concept requires evaluation. Transmitting coordinates for strategy discussion." As the communication ended, Murphy turned to Foster. "You realize we have to inform Earth about this. We can't commit to potential warfare without authorization." "Of course," Foster nodded. "But I suspect President Wilson will see the opportunity here. This isn't just about surviving the threat. It's about demonstrating alliance principles in action." The emergency transmission to Earth created expected chaos. Military leaders saw opportunities for accessing alien technology. Politicians worried about entangling Earth in an interstellar conflict. Ethics committees debated the morality of joining an alien war without knowing all parties involved. President Wilson called an emergency session that lasted 5 hours. Finally, the response came through. Proceed with defensive alliance negotiations. Avoid offensive operations. Primary objective remains establishing peaceful relations with spacefaring civilizations. Meanwhile, Martinez worked frantically to establish communication protocols with the approaching Krell. If negotiation worked with one species, it might work with another, she reasoned. The joint strategy session aboard the Zorthan flagship marked unprecedented cooperation. Captain Murphy and his tactical officers worked directly with Zorthan commanders, combining Earth's unconventional thinking with Zorthan technology. Your vessels have superior shielding, Murphy pointed out, but your attack patterns are predictable. We can design randomized approaches that maintain your defensive advantages while creating offensive uncertainty. Security Chief Traz, who had initially dismissed human military capabilities, now listened intently. This approach contradicts established doctrine, but contains logical advantages. As the Krell fleet approached, Martinez achieved a breakthrough. I've isolated communication patterns from the Krell transmissions, she announced. They use a base 8 mathematical structure that shares elements with both human and Zorthan languages. Foster seized the opportunity. Can we establish direct communication? Possibly, Martinez replied. But we need more processing power. Vral offered immediate assistance. Our quantum arrays can be adapted to your translation matrices. 20 hours before the Krell arrived, Martinez succeeded. The first three-way interspecies communication in known history began with a simple message from Foster. Attention Krell vessels. This is Ambassador Foster representing Earth and allies. We request dialogue before engagement. The response came 3 hours later, harsh and direct, but not immediate weapons fire. Unknown species with Zorthan enemies. Explain presence or be eliminated with them. Foster looked at Krelks, then at her team. This is what humans do best, she said confidently. We talk to those who don't want to talk. As the combined human-Zorthan fleet prepared defensive positions, Foster began the most challenging negotiation of her career, one that would determine the fate of 3 species and potentially reshape galactic politics forever. The space station rotated slowly against the backdrop of stars, its modular sections representing different architectural styles from 3 species. 6 months after the tense standoff with the Krell fleet, it served as neutral ground for what news agencies on Earth called the First Galactic Summit. Ambassador Susan Foster stood before the curved window in the main chamber, watching representatives from 17 different civilizations settle into their designated areas. The journey from crisis to this moment still seemed miraculous. The combined human-Zorthan defense strategy had worked better than anyone expected. Captain Murphy's unconventional tactics paired with Zorthan technology created confusion in the Krell attack formations. While the battle unfolded in space, Foster and Martinez maintained continuous communication attempts. The breakthrough came when we demonstrated the concept of limited engagement, Martinez told a colleague as they prepared for the day's session. When the Krell realized we could have targeted their command vessel, but deliberately avoided it, they recognized a pattern they'd never encountered before. The ceasefire negotiations had been grueling. 3 days of tense exchanges with the Krell representative, a massive being with translucent skin and 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. Foster had drawn on every diplomatic skill she possessed. Your species entered our territory alongside our enemies, the Krell representative had stated. Standard protocol requires your elimination. We entered as negotiators, not combatants, Foster had countered. And we demonstrated that different species can cooperate without conquest. Could this approach benefit the Krell as well? That question had sparked the first real dialogue and revealed surprising information. The Krell, like the Zorthans, knew only dominance-based diplomacy. Their aggression stemmed not from inherent violence, but from the assumption that all interspecies contact must establish hierarchy through combat. Now, 6 months later, representatives from all three species sat at the same table. But they weren't alone. "We've been watching your interactions with great interest," announced the Tellurian delegate, a being composed primarily of light and energy. "Many civilizations in this sector have avoided contact precisely because we expected only warfare." The summit revealed that at least 15 advanced species have been observing Earth and its interactions. Most had remained hidden, assuming that any contact would lead to conquest attempts. The human concept of negotiation between equals had shattered this assumption. "Your species has contributed something unique to galactic society," said the representative from Meridia, a gas giant whose inhabitants evolved in the upper atmosphere. "The belief that different beings can talk before they fight." Foster addressed the assembled delegates with quiet confidence. "Humans have no technological advantage to offer this gathering. We cannot match your faster-than-light drives or energy manipulation. But we have millennia of experience with something apparently rare, finding ways for different groups to coexist through mutual benefit rather than dominance." The formation of the Galactic Council proceeded with surprising speed. Earth was named a founding member despite its limited space presence. Foster accepted appointment as humanity's first representative. Captain Murphy, now Admiral Murphy, stood with Commander Krelks as they jointly presented plans for an integrated defense network. Their unlikely friendship had become symbolic of the new interspecies cooperation. Dr. Olivia Martinez led the development of the Universal Communication Framework, a system that allowed real-time translation between all member species. Her understanding of language as cultural foundation made her the ideal architect for this critical infrastructure. As the formal session concluded, Foster stepped away from the central platform to a quieter area where Ryan Garcia waited. "Did you ever imagine this when we first boarded the Zorthan ship?" she asked him. Ryan smiled, watching representatives from worlds humans hadn't known existed just months ago. "No, I was just hoping we wouldn't get vaporized." Foster laughed. "And now we're helping establish rules of engagement for 17 species." The final session of the day approached. Foster's presentation on Earth's proposed principles of mutual exchange. As she gathered her notes, a small delegation of young Zorthan and Krell approached her. "We request training in this negotiation concept," said the young Zorthan. "Our generations wish to understand alternatives to historical patterns." Foster nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through technological superiority or military might, but by offering something equally powerful, the radical idea that different beings could sit down, talk, and find common ground without first determining who would rule and who would submit. As she prepared to address the council one final time, Foster glanced at the Earth visible through a distant viewport, a small blue marble that had just changed the course of galactic history.